On this episode of Leslie and Castelnaudary, it is a gorgeous spring day, and we decided to go on an adventure. We walk through the sleepy side streets, through downtown, making our way through the Monday morning marché, where there was an association partnering with another organization to do a local Easter egg hunt for children. It's called La Recyclotopie, which is like recycling utopia, and Le Terrarium, which could be translated in English as a community hub. And their community hub is for artistic, social, and ecological and cultural. Here they raise money, do arts and crafts, have a community hub to talk, and today our son was able to search for Easter rocks in exchange for candy. And while I was there, I found a very interesting terrarium, which gave me inspiration to go to the local Gam Bear and find some treasures, as I had already gotten a ton this earlier week, to put inside of it and create an indoor terrarium. So here is my husband Frank helping me pick out what would be the creative elements of this terrarium. We picked a few here that we thought would look cool and interesting. And then when we got home, Frank cleaned out this little terrarium that we got for €8. And he just helped me set it up so that way we could make it work and put it inside. Here he's cleaning the mirror and the glass and tidying it up from the last person. And here I am taking some substrate from my son's aquarium that we had extra of, and then I'm going to mix it in with some actual cactus soil, which has sand and other things. But here I'm just kind of messing around just to kind of see like what the layout's going to be, how much soil I got to put in. These cacti are really prickly, so Frank gave me some gloves. But I have to tell you, you have to be really careful with these things. I owned a lot of cacti and succulents in San Diego, and having been a lover of Joshua Tree and the San Diego desert, I was like, hey, let's do something fun and interesting. I kind of got the idea because my grandmother used to have a greenhouse, and inside she would have a variety of cacti. And she was able to have them even though living in the Pacific Northwest in the foothills of Mount St. Helens. So I am just playing around here, taking some inspiration, splitting some of the plants apart. It was obvious that the people here don't really know how to grow cacti because a lot of those plants at the Gam Bear were sitting there for a long time. And I definitely understand, because if you're living in Castelnaudary, I'm sure a lot of people are not really familiar with cacti unless you have lived in the desert or near the desert or really know that. But fun fact is that the Mediterranean does have quite a bit of cacti, not a lot, but because it's very similar to San Diego, zone 9, zone 10 areas, you do have some of that mix of plants. And I was able to find a lot of different types of plants that I enjoyed in my garden and brought them into this new one here that I have experience with. I'm not a huge experienced person with cacti, but I did have quite a few specimens at my house in San Diego in pots. I tried not to grow them in the ground because, kids and animals were playing and I didn't want them to get poked. So I like to keep things safe, and that's the reason why I have this cacti in a terrarium so my cats or dogs or kids or babies who come to visit don't touch them. So Frank's like, hey, why don't you take a gripper and grip that? And typical him, he's trying to grip on me and he's playing with the dogs. And I'm like, no, I don't need that gripper. And you can see here I'm trying to move around this cacti in this terrarium in a way that I'm not going to get all poked up. But with the gloves on, it kind of affects my ability to maneuver these plants. And you can see me feeling the pokies and just kind of going with it. But, I put on the gloves and I keep going and I'm just kind of playing with it. I really don't know what I'm going to do, how it's going to set up. You have to kind of think ahead. And with the terrarium like this, I know I'm going to have to get an LED light to give an extra boost of sunshine. But what is interesting with this terrarium having the mirrors, all I have to do is just tilt the terrarium towards the window, and during the sunny day, the sun hits that mirror and then amplifies the sun inside the terrarium. So I don't really think I'll need too much more lighting. I know I have an LED ring somewhere that I'll have to take out of storage, but I think it's definitely something I will have to do to make sure that these cacti get enough sunshine. And of course, with them being in a terrarium, there's going to be some moisture there, so I just avoid overwatering them. Fun fact is if you have plants of any kind, when they're wet, they bloom and they grow leaves, and when they're dry, they work and grow on the roots. So it's kind of like that cyclic pattern that plants have. And some plants want to be moist consistently and have wet feet, as you would say, but most plants want to dry out and then get wet again and have that process over and over. So that's something that you kind of have to think about. And I'm looking at these specimens here and I'm deciding, okay, which ones can go together and have similar watering patterns? How are these going to grow in the long term? Are they going to fit together? How much space is each one going to need? So it's kind of like this exercise on planning ahead. And it's a real fun way to just stretch your mind, stretch your imagination, and really understand the nature of plants. So as you can see here, I kind of have a vibe of what I'm doing. And of course, like, we didn't even think about how we were going to put soil around it. So the cacti got covered in soil and it looked terrible and we couldn't spray water it out. So as you can see, it looks super cute. But then I had to pull them all out, and then Frank had to rinse them all off with a hose, and then we had to start all over again. But it's okay. You kind of have to do a trial and error. We're working together here, as we always do on our little projects. Frank he's my worker bee. He's not really the garden visionary. He doesn't have a knowledge of like soils and plants and sun and varieties and how to space things. But one thing I love about Frank is that he is the ultimate worker bee. If you tell him what to do, he will do it, and he will do it excellently. So in a weird way, he's very experienced as a gardener. As a handyman in the garden, he'll build me anything I want. But the thing is like he doesn't really have that like knowledge about it. But when it comes to hands-on, he's just got it. And it's such a fun partnership. As we always say to people, I'm the dreamer and he's the builder. But the thing about gardening in a couple and enjoying it so much together is that it really improves our communication, our friendship. We laugh together, we play together, we vision together, which I think for a happy marriage, speaking only from my experience, you gotta have visions for the future. You gotta have visions for life, and you gotta talk about them. You gotta work towards them. So our teamwork, I feel, is just so amazing, and I feel in so many ways just blessed by this teamwork relationship that I have with him. But when we go out, we laugh, we play, we tease each other, we flirt, and it's just a joyful thing to do. And we make these beautiful things together, and it's not so much about having the thing, it's about the process of making the thing and doing the damn thing together. And I really like doing it because our kids are just so used to seeing him and I building things together, talking things out, planning things, designing things. And it's just a great way to be an example for our children and just share some fun and fresh air. I'm also want to add here that I took the substrate and the cactus sand and I mixed it up really good together. So it kind of had like this nice gritty texture, and so the roots could kind of move through. And what I noticed about this combination is that the space between allows for more aeration and less compact. So I was like really careful after I made this like base, and I began to put in this big cactus here. You can see Goldina in the background. That's our English bulldog, Professor Goldie Wigglebottom, PhD. We call her Goldie or Gogina, or sometimes Gogi for short. And she and our other French bulldog Spirit are just enjoying the time with us as I continue to build this terrarium, which is really like experimental, touch and go. So I'm putting the soil in, I'm building it up, trying to like work with this confined space. The other thing is I had burned my wrist a few days before, so you can kind of see right there, there's like a little burn spot on my right wrist. And so it's very sensitive. I had to be really careful to not scrape it with the glass, but I also had to let it breathe. And so I'm putting the rest of the succulents in the cacti, and just kind of positioning it and making it visually interesting and fun. So it really is this process, trial, error, visual play, getting different textures, getting different sizes, different color schemes, and just trying to see like what's gonna tell a story here. And I just like to think, you're imagining being in the desert somewhere in this gorgeous prehistoric place before humans exist, and it's just like life, pure life. No thought, just pure life. And you're just there. And it's kind of like this nice meditation thought exercise, right? Like, where are you going in your mind when you're gardening or you're building something? Like, you're going through this mental journey. And for me, being a legal scholar, being someone who's a coach and helping people and having a family, gardening is just a way for me to zone out, get in touch with nature, feel a part of nature, and just really get out of my head. I get into my body, I get into the dirt, I feel Mother Earth, I feel the plants, I feel the intelligence and love of it all, and I just really have a good time. So you can see I'm kind of pushing things in with this tong, this kitchen tong here, and just allowing it to kind of squish in there. And I'm finding like something really interesting to put in, and just kind of texture. You can see the one in my hand right now. It's kind of like this short little thing. It's kind of bumpy, and I just think it'll be a really fun piece in the front of this terrarium. And I've seen similar terrariums. I wouldn't say cacti terrariums, but closed terrariums, and they were selling for $60 at Gamver, which is like the local garden store. And here, with all of these and the cacti and the thing, I probably spent maybe 25 euros for all of this. So I was able to get something way bigger, double the size for half the price. Of course, it's my time, it's my energy, but I really feel like I had an opportunity to create something really visually interesting and fun for a relatively low cost. So if you happen to jump into something like this and you see something at your thrift store or even the aquarium shop, you could make yourself a little terrarium like this with your own cacti, mini cacti. The prices of these cacti were really cheap, so it's a really fun project. Do you like it? What do you think? It's got different sizes, different shapes, and we're just gonna see how things go from here. I'm gonna put some LED lighting on it, position it in next to the window, but I think we did a pretty good job. Maybe you would want to make something like this for your home if you live somewhere. I'd love to see your terrariums. If you have one, please let me know. I'd love to see them and be inspired by you. And before I go, here is a fun video of Goldie playing with the ball. She's got a life vest on because I'm super paranoid. I don't want her to fall in, and she did on the sunning ledge over there. But she was able to get out. And it's just a fun, cheap way of keeping her engaged. She bops her head on it, runs around, and it's just such a goofy, fun thing to watch. And gosh, I just laugh and laugh and laugh. So thanks for joining me on this episode of Leslie and Castelnaudary. I hope you have a great day and a spring season. If you enjoy learning about my life in Castelnaudary, subscribe and hit that notification bell. You'll enjoy more of these stories with me and my entourage of animals and learn more about life in the southwest of France. Thanks for joining me. I'm Leslie Juvin-Acker.